So first of all, for everybody, just if you're interested in the free 5-day challenge that we're going to mention probably throughout this several times, you can access that at choosify.com/Salesforce. I'm not going to keep you to the end of the episode, but just choosify.com/Salesforce if you're interested in checking out that free challenge. Let's start with this. And Nina, I want to bring you into this. You said that way back in the day, or like 6 or 7, even before you found Choosify, you'd initially have heard the term Salesforce. You'd Googled it, and then you would even sign up for Trailhead, but then meh. That was kind of just there's too much space between here and there. And I think this is probably where it basically begins. So I'd be curious about if that was your perspective then, what your perspective is now. A buddy of mine text messaged me to ask me about this, and he said, "So I heard about your Salesforce program." And I said, "Oh, great. How much information do you have about it?" And he says, "Well, just the name of it. I tried to Google it, but it was kind of confusing." Anita, how would you explain to that person on the outside what it is? What exactly would you say you do here?
Well, for me, I relate it to I'm really into organizing shows, so like Marie Kondo and Home Edit, and I feel like I am doing like reorganizing my friend's closet, but reorganizing a business to make it more efficient. But I can totally understand where your friend is coming from because that was one of the things I ran into. So there is actually a lot of information on Salesforce out there. It's too much. It's overwhelming. Even on it's like the best training site I've ever used. But there were so many different modules and trails, and there wasn't something clear cut for me to actually go on. And I would get distracted by this and that. I'm like, I just got overwhelmed with all the information.
Let me plant this phrase and I'll let you riff off that and then Bradley add some context to it. This is how I would explain it now. Basically, like, first of all, anybody that's even or ever considered getting a master's in business administration where you have to go through all this work, create all these documents, prove all this, or you could just do it. Like Salesforce is actually you executing on a master's of business administration directly for a company. And so what does that look like? How do you help a company use software to find more customers, sell to those customers, retain those customers, secure the customer's data? It's basically like software tools for business administration. And the part that's so amazing is that you can go from never having heard about it before to certified and getting your first job within 4 to 6 months. Anita, is that accurate? Would you add anything onto that I missed?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically something that helps you set up your business for success. And what's really cool about it is whether you're a small business or a big business, if you're starting out as a small business, you see these big businesses, you're like, how can I even compete with that? But you can with Salesforce. It levels you up to their level.
And Bradley?
Yeah, I think that's right. And what it is that there's so many businesses struggling. And if you're a small business owner or you've worked in a small business or even just being an employee at any company and you're being onboarded, think about all that goes into it. And you're probably using Outlook to send emails or Gmail, and then you're logging into some portal to put your time in or, clock in and clock out. And then you're over here filling out HR paperwork, but then you're in this other system to figure out who you're supposed to call today. And you're using probably 5 to 10 different systems on a daily basis. You've got your tasks over here, your to-do list, your meetings, and everything seems so disconnected. And once you work there a couple of years, it's like, okay, I kind of get how the machine works and you figure it out. But as a new employee, it is very distracting and chaotic. And for the business owners, it is just as chaotic because they just want to pull their data from one place and just run a report and have everything they need to run their business. And they can't. They have to pull data out to Excel from 10 different spreadsheets and then plug it all together and try to figure out what the heck it means. And what Salesforce does is it allows you to compile all of that into one system and sort of have this 360 view where you can log in and you can see all of the information about your customers, your prospective customers, how many support tickets you have coming in, what the trends are with all of your data, and then make business decisions based on that. And the crazy thing about being a Salesforce professional is that we know, because we're on the inside right now, even though we're sitting on a podcast episode telling hundreds of thousands of people about this, you're still on the inside of the conversation. And there's so many people who have no idea, including customers who use Salesforce. So they think you have to be this incredibly skilled professional that knows how to do all the magic secrets in order to make this thing work. But it turns out with, 3, 4, maybe 6 months of training, you I'm not going to say that you're not going to go in there and think you're just the almighty and you're going to take control over the whole system, but you are going to be in a position where you look like a magician. Your employer really has no idea what it is you're doing. They just know that it works. And that's really the incredible thing. And what leans into the lifestyle flexibility side of it is that they don't know if it was supposed to take you 1 hour or 10 hours. And if you just get the job done by the time they needed it done by, they're perfectly fine with that. And it allows you to pull a lot of different levers to increase your flexibility.
Bradley, I love that look like a magician thing. That so rings true to my experience with corporate America. When I worked in my tax department, we actually hired somebody. I think they worked for one of the major accounting firms, but we paid him like, I forget, it was like $200 an hour or more to basically create an Excel file for us, because like he had these skills and it probably was a couple of months worth of learning, right? Like it was nothing revolutionary, but to us, he looked like a wizard, right? It looked like something out of a different age. So it's amazing when when you're just that little bit better than the people who are existing there, you do look like a wizard. So I think that is super, super cool.
And I think as you start to work through these questions, what's perfect is this person didn't know we were going to do this episode. I didn't even give me permission to ask these questions on his behalf. So that's why I'm not using his name. But I think it perfectly reflects exactly what someone that's on the outside is thinking right now. So first of all, I want to say that Bradley and I, after talking to Bradley, and we were trying to create the expectations for what you could expect to see in terms of results on the other side, we said, can you give us 6 months? If you give us 6 months to work with you, we think we can get you from no experience to in a job with pretty much any individual, the vast majority of the individuals that work with us. And then 2, we think that almost without exception, if you go through this process, we can get you into a job that pays somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year. Now, Anita, I'll give this to you first. Was that accurate from your experience, not as someone that went through the program, but also has seen tons of other students go through this program? Do you think that was fair and maybe even conservative in some cases?
From seeing everyone else in the program, yes, that was fair. My case was a unique case, and I actually went over that amount.
All right, so we're talking about the pay structure. My understanding is your first offer, your first job that you landed, pays over it's a 6-figure job. Is that accurate?
I pretty much doubled my salary from when I used to work in hospitality. Doesn't pay that well, in case anyone wants to know. But
discounts
yes,
on hotel rooms, though, right? Discounts.
It makes it worth it until you do the math and you're like, oh, I should just focus on making more money.
We did not bill it as
awesome.
make 6-figure income, but it is worth pointing out that most people will be very excited about pivoting into a totally new industry and starting out with 60 and 80K. And Anita, regardless of whether it was 60 to 80 or 100 for you, with your perspective now, is that where you cap out? Is that the end for you?
No, definitely not. If you listen to Bradley's episode, I want to work 20 hours a week, making $200K a year.
And Bradley,
that's the end goal.
Is that a possible? I mean, let's kind of give people a scope here. We just said, you're telling me I can be brand new. I'm going to come into a job. I'm going to look like a magician, and they're going to pay me $60,000 to $80,000 a year. I could get some crazy outlier scenario where, like in Anita's case, my first job offer in a totally new industry that I didn't know anything about it 6 months ago, they're going to pay me $100,000, plus $1,000 a year. And you're telling me that I don't stop there? Like, map out for me, Bradley, what someone that's focused on the strategy here and making the right moves, what gets them to the point kind of closer, approximating what you're doing?
Yeah, I'll try to make this as concise as possible. But basically, once you go through the career development program, you're going to be at a point where you're making $60,000 to $80,000 if you're the norm. So just normal deviation between $60,000 and $80,000. There are going to be some people like Anita that are going to make 6 figures, and that's incredible, and that's an amazing success story. The typical is probably around $70,000, for which is still incredible to me that you can do something for 3 to 6 months and all of a sudden be making $70,000 in a new career path. And yeah, the trajectory goes up incredibly fast. So just a normal person, let's say that you're not going to use any overly unique strategies to try to figure this out. You're just going to follow the career path, do your job, and move forward. So after about a year, you're going to go from, say, $70,000 to about $85,000. After a couple of years, you'll be, around $90,000 to $100,000. And after 3 years, you're going to be well over six figures just on a typical, you're not leaning into the challenge, you're just coasting, and you're going to be on this trajectory.